Big Brothers Big Archive. Tonight's episode: Wolves, Witches, and Poppets.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us again for Big Brother's Big Archive, everyone's favourite retrospective look at all things Big Brother. My name is Karl, and joining me once again is Mr. Allard.
Hello.
And Mr. Joseph Tilley.
Hello.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us once again. And today we will be discussing Big Brother 12 as Joe gives the W sign to Paul.
Yeah, he deserves it.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a shout out to everyone who's been liking and, well...
Yes, Facebook pages, comments on YouTube, Twitter accounts. Thank you very much for contributing. Thank you very much for getting in touch with us. And we have a lot of loyal supporters, and we're going to do our best to try and make this podcast just as good as the rest of them.
Yes, because quite frankly, we need. We've hit a very good milestone with the views. I mean, we're actually doing something.
Yes, we're actually getting views.
Yes, which is kind of disturbing in a way.
It is.
Next stop, stalkers.
People want to hear a group of idiots talking about Big Brother for 2 hours.
I think they want to listen to me more than you do, because I basically got the rascalness of Russell Howard mixed in with the loudness of Brian Blessed.
Paul Barron, professional BSer there.
Yes. And his ego grew 3 times that day.
Yeah, but before we get into this ego clash between us three, we're going to get started talking about Big Brother 12. Now, Big Brother 12, as we know, was the first Channel 5 series. And it's a series which, I think on the whole, a lot of people did like when it first aired. But I think looking retrospectively, and especially after Big Brother 13 came about, I think showed it up to be quite a weak series. I mean, it does have its fans, it does have its die-hard supporters, namely the Aaron fans, which we'll come to later.
But most of them doused in bronze tanner, so with vajazzles and all, so you know.
But on the whole, I think the perception is quite poor. What's your perception of Big Brother 12 on the whole, Paul?
When I first saw it, went wrongly there. When I first saw it, I thought, it's going to be Big Brother again. It's going back to the glory days, but it just feels like they wanted to control the housemates so they can actually do what they wanted to do.
A bit more stage management with the contestants, you mean?
I was hoping, Channel 5 just went absolutely balls out and just had a sign saying, vote for him. With a guy from production like a ninja.
Now, Joe, when you look back at this series, when you judge a series like this, do you judge it based on the Channel 5 series on a whole, or do you judge it in comparison to the Channel 4 series?
What I do is from this series, I thought it was a bit of a. It was a bit of a remake, if you like a sequel. It was a bit crap, so I based it kind of the newest one, the one that just happened, on the first series of the Channel 5 series, and then on the Channel 4 series, which was, it hit a high, it went down, and it went kind of up again, and then it flopped and it went to Channel 5.
It flopped, it did a barrel roll, then it went to Channel 5.
Set on fire.
Fell into the grave. Now, one of the things I want to talk about in a bit more detail is the cast that Channel 5 chose for this first series. Now, Channel 5 were quite controversial in the casting policy for the series, where they made a big deal in the days before the launch of this cast we're having nobody who was over 30 and every cast member being single. Now, speaking to you first, Paul, do you think this was a good decision or a bad decision on the whole?
Well, it's actually a load of bullshit because Aaron is basically 30. So they just threw something out there, and also it's just, it's Channel 5, it's like Fox News, constantly throwing shit at you. Bad shit, everything's going to die. News at 11, read Heat, read more Heat, read OK, plus Heat, read the Daily Star because it has big jubbly boobs.
Or you should watch the adverts during the Channel 5 thing. It is basically a marketing ploy for brand Richard Desmond.
Born the dead man! Born the dead man!
No, well, what about you, Joe? What was your view on the no over 30s casting policy?
I think that, you know, as Paul says, a 30-year-old won it, so it's kind of a bit, you know, it's a bit mute point that that it happens, that because, you know, an over 30-year-old won. So I think, you know, you need your oldies in it sometimes just to make it, you know, fun.
Bit more diverse.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that was a big problem with the Big Brother 12 cast, was that everybody just seemed to be from the same areas doing the same sort of things.
Yeah, because of the fact that they couldn't be asked to actually make the audition more wide open, you know. Instead of going to Newcastle, Cardiff...
Well, there were two Geordies though.
Yeah, there were two Geordies, but I'm guessing they actually travelled to the actual...
No, the two auditioning places were London and Manchester.
Right, so how the hell did two Geordies get in there?
Because they were desperate enough to drive to Manchester. But we discuss all these. We discuss all the lack of old people in the house. There was, of course, one old person who was in the house, not as a housemate but as a guest. Which brings me on to the point. What was your opinion, Joseph, on the Pamela Anderson twist?
How the hell did they get Pamela Anderson in there? She's probably walking around so delicately that if she breaks her bloody heel or something, she'll crumple into dust. You know, one moment, oh look, it's Pamela Anderson.
If she falls over, her boobs will crush her. But anyway, yeah.
They're not that big, but mind you, they basically look a little bit more snuggable.
Yes, before we enter Paul's perverted dreams, Pamela Anderson.
Who would turn up for the opening with a paper bag? Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's just a bit of overkill, if you ask me. It's just like she was good in her day, and now she's, as I say, she'll just do anything. So
she was.
Oh, imagine the creepy fans afterwards. They're all wearing the same thing, bloody Pamela Anderson are wearing, except with little holes in them. Pamela, we love you. Ew.
Yes, I just found it really unnecessary. I agree with you there. I just felt there was no need to do that sort of twist, to have Pamela Anderson to plug your series. But the worst part about it was there was a celebrity series just a couple of days ago which could have done with someone like Pamela Anderson in it.
I just think they just went, all right, we got Pamela Anderson. What we should do with her? Well, we just had a celebrity Big Brother. So what do you think we should do with her?
Let's make the housemates suck up to her and compete in stupid challenges to try and impress her.
What do you think, Richard Desmond? Brilliant! We put it on there and we make sure that everyone likes it, and we're going to make money off of it because we're so respectable. Even though I look like a perfectly normal family man, I'm actually pretty much of a dick.
Moving on. But yes, Pamela Anderson I felt could have been done for, and I just felt sort of, I do like a week one twist. That one just felt a bit silly for me.
Yeah, that I would. Really,
I mean,
the next one they just go, oh, it's a knockout sort of thing.
Now, I like the idea. I like the idea of immunity challenges, so I'll give you Channel 5 for that. The idea of housemates trying to do things to try and keep in the game for a bit longer was good. But I think some of the things they did, sucking up to Pamela Anderson, trying to impress Pamela Anderson, running in slow motion in red bathing suits. Not exactly Survivor, is it?
Oh, so please don't say the word sucking up to Pamela Anderson, because you'll probably end up.
Yes, I think Tommy Lee did that a lot in that video.
Yeah. Kid Rock, you were awesome, but now look at you.
Excuse me, can we move on? That's disgusting.
Yes. We're probably going to get lynched by the FBI knowing this.
Fuck the FCC.
But yes, the immunity challenges took place. Basically sucked up to Pam, and Pamela Anderson came and went, and everyone pretty much forgot about it. which let us get to know the housemates a bit more. Now, the housemate who really began to stand out in those first couple of days is somebody who we'll probably be discussing a lot during this podcast, which is Aaron.
And also having a little angel come in once every time his name is actually mentioned.
I like Aaron over the course of the series, but I don't think that he's this angelic figure that you like to paint him as sometimes.
Angelic figure, no, just basically the mention of his name, of his pure awesomeness, brings back an angel from the heavens and then backs up again.
Is he your new Adam for this episode?
Not necessarily. I just love the zingers that he does.
Yes, and you get me on to a great point, because Aaron's zingers, those little quirks that Aaron made during the course of the series were absolutely hilarious, and we began to see the start of those during week 1. When did Aaron really come out to you as somebody to really focus on as a big character during the series?
First off, and second, it's just the fact that he had the balls to actually go up to one of the most demanding of the females, which
I'm guessing Rebecca in this.
Rebecca, aye, and actually, show quote unquote his cojones off.
Not literally, man.
Not literally, just you know what I mean.
Do you think that sort of behaviour though was maybe a bit isolating him for the rest of the group though? Because as we were going to mention before, Aaron was one of the 3 people who was nominated.
It would isolate you, but with. Sorry. I'm sorry. It's just I've got a loud voice. Remember Brian Blessed, but with less beard and more youth.
Okay.
And you continue on.
Yes, let's continue on.
With it may work as that, but you're gonna get. But in about week, I think it'd be 2 or 3. You'll probably get more. You'll probably get friends over to your side.
Yes. Aaron, I think Aaron was pretty much the digital spy favourite for pretty much week 1, mainly because of the zingers. But for that first week, he was one of the nominees, along with Harry and Tashi. And unfortunately, if you remember that week, it would be Tashi who, pretty much after getting nominated, pretty much really collapsed mentally. And of course, being a woman up against 2 men of rather good looks, ended up being evicted. Now, Joe, what was your view on Tashi? Because I get the feeling with Tashi, she was somebody who, I think if she'd been given more time, I think could have been somebody who the public really came to want to. She sort of reminded me, if you watch the celebrity series which just finished, of Lacey. Because Lacey was a bit dippy, a bit kooky, but because she stayed a few weeks, the public really came to want her, and I think that could have happened with Tashi a bit.
But I really buckled when you could probably say to what?
Keep going.
You could probably say she pulled a Pamela Anderson.
In what way?
Basically, she came in a launch night, came out the first week,
and like Pamela Anderson did the sex video. Yes. But I like Tashi. I think she was somebody who was harmless. She was a little bit annoying, but I think there were people who were far worse than her in the house at that point. We'll come to a lot of them later. In my eyes, Tashi was harmless. A bit off the wall. The stuff where she claimed that the moon was crying because she was nominated. I think it was brilliant.
Why do I just hear in from Dragon Ball Z Bridge? If you don't know what it is, watch it. It's brilliant. You basically hear Piccolo going,
What sort of television shows do you watch?
I'm a man of the internet. I have seen many things. Many things.
Yes, I know all those YouTube links you sent me. Not pleasant, I should tell you. Now, what was your view on Tashi Joe? Do you have sort of a view on her? Do you think that she could have maybe come out a bit more?
I agree with you that she could have, if she'd stayed in longer, she could have come out of her shell more and been more of a big character. But I think she was sweet and lovely, and she went before her time.
I think so. I think there were better first boot potentials than her, and also arguably during that first week she did more than Javi. So maybe Javi should have gone that week.
But but I would like to say one thing. Yes. Lovely snake moving woman.
Yes, Tashi. Probably one of the best bodies in Big Brother history. I'll have to give it that.
Let me get in good with you.
Okay.
You could have. To tell you the truth, that would be a bit more disturbing if I did the second one. So.
Yes, please stop with all the disturbing things. Very perverted. I actually dread these podcasts sometimes because I dread what Paul's going to say.
It's like shooting stars, except shit, and no one's actually looking at anything.
That's probably going to be the quotation. We should use that on the episode, actually.
It's like shooting stars.
Like shooting stars, but shit, nobody's watching. But we'll keep going. Paul will be George Dawes. But we'll keep going, and we'll discuss week 2. Now, one thing in week 2 was it would be the second and last time of the series that we saw immunity challenge, which was the cooked up in a chicken coop competition. Basically, how long could you stay in the chicken coop? Have you won immunity? Now, was I the only one who was a little bit disappointed that these immunity challenges just seemed to stop? I mean, it's like they build them up for the first 2 weeks. We had with the Pamela Anderson thing and the Harvey immunity challenge, and then they just seemed to drop it. Why do you think that was? It just seemed a bit strange for me.
I think it's because of the fact of people being a little bit too close to Survivor.
But that's a good thing, though, I think.
But I would really buckle if they actually pulled out the immunity Pamela. You know,
the immunity Pamela.
It's just basically a twig with 2 melons on it. If anyone has this, they're immune to of eviction.
I'm actually surprised, considering how much they hype Pamela Anderson didn't do something like that.
It's the immunity Pamela. No,
I can just imagine Aaron carrying it around his neck. But yes,
this week's task.
Oh, thank you for mentioning this, Joe. Thank you for mentioning this. It was of course the say yes task. Basically, the housemates had to say yes to every single offer that they were given in the house.
Ah, yes, so yes man sort of thing.
Yes. So for example, we had Heaven, who had to make a bungee jump. Harry had the offer to pose for a gay magazine, one which he turned down on the few. And of course, the most famous one, which we'll have to discuss in more detail, Alex gets 4 spray tans.
Oh, what can I say?
Oh dear.
A very welcome return to the shock suits. Yay!
I got sick of seeing the shock suits many times before.
I don't want to see the shock suits. They remind me so much of Becky.
Although,
dear Lord, see everything.
Paul's been tormented by Becky Hannon for the past year and a half.
She's oh for God. Oh.
Yes, calm down, breathe, Paul. You do some your breathing whilst I discuss the Alex spray tans with Joe. Now, what did you make of that? Because I thought that was absolutely hilarious, and I wasn't the biggest fan of Alex over the course of the series, but that was a fun moment for me.
It was
hilarious.
Yeah, it was hilarious, but it was almost a little bit more offensive because her tanned face was already about 2 shades away from being absolutely fucking racist.
I'm not joking. She came out absolutely pitch black, and with the look of sheer contempt over her face, looks in the mirror. God, I look like Hulk Barbie.
You, oh my God, no, oh. I look like Hulk Barbie. No, you look more like an offensive stereotype from the 1930s. Hello, my baby. Hello, my mammy.
The one gripe I did have with Alex's spray tan task was that I sort of thought that this spray tan task hoisted Alex onto this pedestal as a contender to win, which she seemed to ride all the way to the end. I mean, I spoke to a lot of people coming the end of the series who were supporting Alex, and for me the only thing they could back up the support with was the spray tan task.
Oh God.
I just felt that was the only thing that Alex really had going for her for a large part of the season.
So you're telling me she basically she practically rid the fact that she almost offended a lot of people.
Well, she didn't, but her fan base thought that Alex was an absolutely hilarious figure on the basis of this one task.
I think I can see the fan base right now. Jinx stinks! Jinx stinks! A lot of people get that joke. Trust me, it's the internet.
But what a lot of people didn't get though on the show was Rebecca Vaughn. Now, if you actually watch the launch night, Rebecca was actually one of the more popular housemates going into the show. She sold herself as this Robin Hood figure, as it were, who posed as a lap dancer by night, but gave all of her earnings to a charity. So she was somebody who, on paper, seemed like somebody who could be contented to win. But in week 2, absolutely imploded into this real villain figure. She was quite a bitchy character. Now, it's quite ironic. You know how we talked about the week of Chris in the Big Brother 13 podcast?
Aye.
Yeah. Well, week 2 of Big Brother 12 was the week of Rebecca. She dominated pretty much everything. And
I was hoping she was going to be a nice person, but no, she had to be the bitch of the whole of the bitch.
She did a very bitchy character. I admit I do like me villains on a show like this. I like me bees, I like me McCauseys. I loved Spidey in Big Brother 11, which we'll come to later.
Spidey!
We'll come to that when we get to the podcast. But for me, Rebecca was just a touch too far, I think. I could never root for Rebecca in that same sort of way. It was just something unwelcoming.
I think that's why she actually said that. She said she wanted something to go on, but unfortunately she didn't actually get it, considering the fact that it is Big Brother, and in these climates, we're actually seeing more and more of the world and what it is.
Yeah.
A bit of a bipolar planet, as I like to call it.
Now, of course, there was that big argument with Heaven during the middle of the week involving the shopping task, in which Rebecca accused Heaven of stealing some of the food for herself, which Heaven responded by claiming that girl has got negative vibrations. Yes, Joe, you're waving, you want to stop us?
No, I'm still here, but I'm just going to be out of shot a second, so
yes.
I'm still here.
Yes, Joe's going to be doing his own thing for a little bit, so I'm going to, and of course, ironically, following that argument was the fact that Heaven and Rebecca were those two nominees. Yeah. Now, considering Rebecca's role as a villain at that point, do you, Paul, maybe consider that it might have been worth keeping Rebecca at that point?
Well, even the nicest person in this whole world, as I would like to quote Kay for a bit, getting one's desires will change you. For example, but here, in this case, she basically was the most nicest person that you could ever meet. I mean, she got naked to give the money that she made in the Peppermint Rhino to charity.
Then why was she such a bitch in the show?
She was pushed, basically.
You think she was pushed?
I think the pressure just got to her. I think because because in something like Big Brother, you're basically exposed to the entire nation.
I sort of see that. I sort of see her Robin Hood story as a bit of a charade, to be honest.
Oh, in that case, then fuck the bitch. I hope someone puts a 20 down your neck.
Now, probably a Dens.
Oh.
Yeah, they had the showmans, and that sort of really died a death. Now, I don't think anybody really bought into the Rebecca Aden showmans. Now, although I do, on the whole, disagree with Rebecca going, I think you've got to keep the bigger characters in. One thing it did do was it allowed for Heaven Africa to break a long-standing Big Brother tradition in the fact that Heaven is the first black woman to survive a one-on-one Big Brother eviction. Because she was the first person ever to do it.
Because the evil bitch go bye-bye.
But Heaven can stand by that. She can look by that. Maybe she forgotten in a couple of years, but she broke that.
She can basically do the same thing she does in she could probably do the same thing that you probably do in Minecraft. You know, stand back and look what you've just done. Make a massive crater the size of Kent.
She's going to go down in history.
Exactly.
Yes. And week 2 went down in history, and we move on to week 3. Now, one thing I want to discuss was, as we mentioned in the first part, Aaron's predominance during the series. And I think this really came to a head with week 3,
Mm-hmm.
when Aaron starts a love a love square, as it were, a complex relationship between himself, Maisie, Faye, and to a lesser extent Tom. Now,
How the hell?
Aaron sort of mismanaged this, I think, a lot, and I think came across a bit sleazy. Was this Aaron just being a player, or do you think he was sort of doing the rounds, thinking who would be the better showmans to try and set himself up with?
All these girls, or is it 2 girls, 1 guy?
2 girls and the bisexual Tom.
Oh dear God! How the hell can you actually pull that off? Mind you, that amount of money actually makes you do insane shit.
So you think that Aaron played up to the cameras deliberately, tried to set himself up for a showmans?
Well, kind of, but he sort of the way that if it was done by vote to save,
Which he was.
then Aaron would have had the sort of comedy sort of thing going with, because he's got the zingers. I mean, he's basically going around with the BFG of all one-liners.
And I think with vote to save and the lack of a negative backlash against your actions in the house, I think that someone like Aaron could afford to be. We're being interrupted here. That someone like Aaron could afford to be a bit more dominant in this way, hog a bit of the airtime, as it were, and keep. Okay, we've got Peter if anyone's interested. But yeah, he could afford to play the role, as it were, play the field, and earn himself airtime. Now, Joe's offline for now, so I'm going to put this question to Paul. It's one which he's been looking forward to. If you'll get this joke if you know the series. Do you love N-dubs?
What?
Do you love N-dubs?
What?
Do you love N-dubs?
Oh, do I love N-dubs? No.
If you don't get that, it's another example of Aaron's singers. It's another example of Aaron's singers, and it's probably one of the most famous ones. A very funny moment. It brought out the best of both Aaron and actually out of Alex. Now, Aaron had this sort of feeling I felt, this wind-up merchant attitude, and I think that's it exemplified in that. Very funny moment, and again another example of Aaron putting himself in positions to get the airtime and to get more interest on him, which of course was important because of the fact he was nominated once again this week against Heaven and against Eden. Now, Aaron surviving was a foregone conclusion for me, but the Heaven versus Eden vote was very close, 0.5% between the two. And the question I'm going to put to Joe, if he's online with us, is: did the right person go? Should Heaven have stayed over Eden, or was the right decision made?
Well, I'm just looking here because the way I would probably see it is with a den. It was basically the brains of the house.
I wouldn't say it was the brains of the house. I mean, he was a smart kid, but I don't think you ever really showed it.
Maybe playing up the cameras that he was affecting more. I don't know.
Probably. What about you, Joe? Do you think the right decision was made? Do you think Heaven should have gone?
I think she served her course, you know. I think it was time for her to go. Yeah.
Okay. And I sort of disagree. I think Heaven was a far bigger character than Eden, and I think that especially after the showmance with Rebecca had ended, I think that Eden has sort of run his course in the house. The one good thing about Heaven though was that in her post-show interviews, she unveiled something which never made the highlights show, but got discussed a lot in the forums, which was freezergate. Yes, this myth that goes around that Jay, as a practical joke, deliberately took a dump in a box and put it into the freezer as a practical joke, which is a massive violation of health and safety, and there were a lot of people saying that Jay should have been kicked out. Where do you stand on that, Joe?
What did he do?
He took a dump in the freezer.
Oh, that's disgusting. Yeah, I think that's definitely a kick out of both ends.
And the other question I ask is, why did Channel 5 cover it up?
Because they wanted viewers.
But how are they going to get viewers by doing something which nobody saw?
Touché. It's a sort of thing that internet conspiracy artists like to put on. They did have, because Big Brother is basically Big Brother is the place that is covered in security cameras, right? Every single inch, even every fly that comes in there has a little security camera in it. So it's impossible how the hell they didn't actually finish. It's impossible to actually get away with anything, unless of course you're either invisible, and you might probably take a stealth shot.
And the moral of the story is, Paul,
why the fuck? Think about what you're fucking doing before you do it, because quite frankly, taking a shit and putting it in a box and putting it in the freezer is bloody fucking gross. That's type shit that you'll probably do at a frat party.
I would at least give a warning.
I think so, definitely. I think probably he did, we just never saw it.
I would really buckle if he took the frozen turticle and basically tried to break one of the windows with it, but failed epically. That would be TV worth watching. That would be TV worth watching.
He should have put it in the aircon. The shit would have hit the fan.
Oh, nice.
Nice one, Karl.
But if we were to move on to week 4, it wasn't Jay who turned into the villain, it was Anton.
My word.
Yes, Anton at this point really began to establish himself as a pantomime baddie of the show, and one which, in my opinion, didn't really deliver. With Anton, for me, I can appreciate a lot of the aspects of Anton which I find quite funny.
I would like to call this segment right now Bad Luck Anton.
Yes. if you ever read the Bad Luck Brian meme Anton is basically Big Brother's version of Bad Luck Brian. Because every single thing that Anton did, every boast that he made in the house, ended up backfiring on him. So Anton sells himself as this player who's going to pull all the women and sees every woman reject him. He says he will intellectually destroy Aaron. Aaron beats him in a general knowledge quiz. And says that he will that he's a master game player who will own everyone in the strategic side of the game. What does he do? Ends up getting nominated when they're allowed to discuss nominations. Every single thing he did always seemed to backfire, and it was almost like a Wile E. Coyote cartoon.
I would really buckle if he
I
actually.
don't fuck it like that. That's good.
It's like you just see all of them going meep meep. I would like to put this in as an example of a Brian thing. Gets hit by truck, sees light, gets hit by another car.
Good on Paul.
Bad luck, Brian.
Bad luck, Antoine.
Bad luck, Antoine as well.
Yes. And it was also bad luck, unfortunately, for Mark, who unfortunately quit the show, chose to walk out. Now, for me, this was probably the most left field walker in the history of the show, in my eyes.
Why did he walk out on his hands or something like that?
No, it was like with most walkers, they sort of build up a couple of days in advance, sort of preparing them to walk. Should I go? Shouldn't I go? And also, you can see the weak personalities who you probably assume could go at some point. Yet Mark was like messing about. He was having fun times, etc. And then just decides, I've had enough. I want to go, and that's it.
And basically,
bored, wasn't he? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know.
Now, I'm actually a bit cynical about that. Actually, I don't believe the boredom thing. I actually think Mark played the crass crown a lot in the show, and I think the reason why he quit was because he realised he couldn't hack it. He couldn't hold that act up for any longer. Yeah,
because it's either keep it up for about 2 months or you're gonna get voted out.
Well, for me, the big point was he hated the cameras being on him, yet he pranced around naked on bit on the side for the rest of the series.
Now, am I dreaming this, or did it really happen that? It's probably a long time ago. that they went to a diary room and one of the housemates used like a code word to leave the house.
That Dawn Blake, Big Brother 7. They kicked her out for rejection, but really that was her code for saying I want to go.
Yeah.
I would like to say one thing, I could do an impression of Mark right now. I don't want to do this anymore. I really don't want to do it. 2 weeks later.
Spot on. Class clown.
Afro circus, polka dot, Afro.
Sorry, tangent.
And another contestant with the letter M also saw her departure that week, which was Maisie.
Ah.
Yes, I had a soft spot for Maisie. It was Maisie versus Faye in the eviction. Basically, the two loves of Aaron's life going against each other. And it was Maisie who ended up being the one to go that week.
Okay.
Now, am I the only one who got the impression that Maisie got a lot of bad treatment by the producers? I just felt the bit on the side had this had really in for her from quite an early stage and seemed to be happy at the fact that she went.
I thought she was just a bit of a ditzy blonde and she wasn't really very interesting.
And I think that's why production didn't like her. I actually think deep down, this is the belief I've had, Maisie was cast to be a Grace-style bitchy sort of character. And once they realised that what they got was quite a normal person who wasn't really that exciting, they wanted a shot of her.
But unfortunately, if I was in the Big Brother house and I want you and you to do this, right?
If we get in,
I want you to play up to your characters, right? If you ever get played as, the suave, sophisticated sort of type, go absolutely rock star on their asses.
I think if I was to get cast, it would probably be as the British Sheldon Cooper.
You know what I'm going to do, Paul?
Fucking go for a different one.
If I get in, Paul, I'm going to dress up as your favourite person who I'm not allowed to say anymore.
Yes, he who shall not be named. And we're not talking Jimmy Savile.
We're just going to call him Baboon Ass. Right, anywho, moving on.
Yes, moving on. And we come to week 5 as Maisie leaves, another housemate enters. And I want to discuss this person in a bit more detail with both of you. Very controversial twist, one that I don't personally agree with. Jem Palmer, Faye's sister, entering the house. What do you make of that, Joe?
It's just ridiculous. It's like, it's ridiculous, and it's just.
It's sort of, if I could actually say something, it's sort of like, we don't wanted this character, so we're putting this one instead. So basically, she disobeyed. We put in a more obedient dog.
I just find it really unfair to single out Faye in the way that they did. Because what did Faye do? Why was it Faye's relative that came in? Why in particular did they signal her out? Was it because Jem was a semi-celebrity? She was a gladiator after all. I don't know. I don't like the idea of putting relatives in the show in the first place. But the fact he shows Jem as well, who I thought was a very weak character,
mind you, made
it worse.
If I was in the Big Brother house, if they did that with me. Right, Paul's out. What we do? We got his brother in because we're Channel 5. We're basically God.
Actually, if you went in, I think you could probably get all 3 of your brothers. Imagine that, a house full of barons on your television screen.
God.
Oh yeah, drunken, fighting, shouting, Daniel taking shit and not actually doing something. My brother Gareth being, my brother Gareth, Matthew.
And that's a guest, he house who shall not be named.
What?
As a celebrity guest, he who shall not be named. Who we shall name though? In fact, in what a lot of people did, they were allowed to name. They were allowed to discuss nominations.
Oh my God!
Just 1 week only, they were allowed to discuss nominations for Big Brother 12. Now, I want your opinion on that decision? Do you agree with it on the whole?
It's basically Channel 5's way of saying, I'm going to bitch on you in front of everybody. Basically, they can go around going, I voted for you, I voted for you, I voted for you, and I voted for you.
So,
and I'm even going to vote to toast you as well, because that's what I am.
So you disagree on the whole with it?
It's just, right, if you don't want it, it's just, that gives strategy to the game.
But is that a good thing? Because as we mentioned in the Big Brother 13 podcast, I think the strategy is a good part of reality television. And I feel that Big Brother has shown itself to be an out-of-date format by not embracing this.
Yes, because of the fact that, well, Channel 5, with its, with the twat that has a father's face, is probably, seriously, have you seen the dude? How can you kill that?
We're talking about Richard Desmond there. But moving back onto the subject, nominations were allowed to be discussed, and as we mentioned in Bad Luck Anton, that segment, Anton was very confident that he and his alliance, the Wolf Pack, would be able to get Aaron and Faye up together. And of course what happened was that Aaron played the game himself, spreading lies to Jay, and forcing the Wolf Pack to split their votes between Aaron, Faye and Harry. Which meant that Aaron was able to get all three members of the Wolf Pack up, along with himself and Faye, and which set up a 5-way eviction. And one of the turning points of the series, I feel, which was Aaron and Faye both receiving the top 2 votes, and the Wolf Pack finally realising they weren't these lovable rogues that they painted themselves as.
Aye, instead they're basically puppies to be sold into a little cardboard box on the streets of Bronx. Thank you.
Yes. But before that though was another example of Bad Luck Anton, which was Aaron owning Anton in the survival task.
Yeah.
If anybody needs this, if anybody needs a reminder of this, Anton, as part of the task, had to climb 10,000 miles on a rock climbing simulator. He did so. He did all 10,000 miles because he wanted to separate Aaron and Faye, who were the captives in the show. Wanted to separate them and make Aaron suffer because he had to be without Faye.
As basically evil villains with bloody top hats and twiddly moustaches do.
and that's Anton in detail, full on pantomime, old timey villain. If Anton had the chance, he would have tied Faye to the train tracks. So Anton does this task. Actually, does really well to do this task. Chooses to save Faye. So Faye leaves the task. So Aaron just realizes, I'm not going to do the task, and causes everyone to walk out. Ha! So Anton walks those 10,000 miles for nothing.
It's basically a Zen thing right now.
You going to say, Joe?
By the way, can I say I loved Tom and Alex's made-up task, and then having to dance the Macarena for 2 hours.
I wasn't the biggest lover of that, but I'm not a big Tom and Alex lover, I have to be honest.
But I thought it was just amusing that it's always good that every year they always make up their own little games to play in the house. Like they did the Keep You Uppy one year. This year they did like a sock hunt. So
a sock punch. Really?
Fun.
Long story. The story I actually want to discuss more detail.
That's like if mankind got onto Street Fighter. Sock punch.
The story I want to discuss is that 5-way eviction, which was Aaron versus Faye versus Jay versus Anton versus Aden, and that week saw Aden and his long overdue elimination.
Yeah.
Now, usually I'm quite critical of the decisions the British public made. They got that one absolutely spot on. I think that Anton was playing the Panto Bally role so well, he had to be kept in.
And so well, in fact, that I would love to see if Channel 5 is listening to this podcast, and I bet you are now. I was hoping that you probably, if you spot an overruling Panto villain, right? Please, for the love of God, make a task so they can wear a top hat and a fake mustache for that. Please, for the love of God, do that. And I will probably give you Pommel.
I don't agree much with Paul, but I second that. That would be a fun task.
Yeah.
Yes. What wasn't a fun task though was what happened in week 6. Now, on your opinion on this, the crypt. Basically, Anton and Jay both received the most nominations from the fellow housemates, but rather than face the public vote together, they were moved from one side of the house into basically the task room area, which was done out as a crypt. And basically, they had to pull off certain tasks, and in doing so, was rewarded with a chance to influence the eviction in some way. Now, Channel 5 kept this really vague, and there were a lot of criticisms from people on the internet forums over their vagueness of this. The fact that they weren't saying what it was. Now, what did you make that? Was that incompetence from Channel 5 that they kept things so vague? Or did they want to do something different, i.e. a save and replace sort of scenario, but had to back down because of the negative feedback? I'm going to put that to you, Joe.
I think that they did back down, definitely. I could see that they kept it on the down low, and then they suddenly just changed their minds, and that was a mistake on Channel 5's. You know, it was Channel 5's fault, not the housemate's fault. But I did enjoy the crypt task and the seance at the end. That was good.
Could you imagine the uproar if they had done save and replace, and it'd be Aaron versus Faye up against one another?
Yeah, there would be a massive uproar. Yeah, especially to all the Aaron fans. Whoop, whoop.
Well, I would probably say maybe Channel 5 wanted to do that because, you know, the worst possible feeling is the feeling of not knowing. Is one of those things. So if they actually don't know what's going to happen, and Channel 5 do know what's going to happen, that will make them on their feet about it.
What they did do though was what they eventually went with, which was Anton and Jay would still face the public vote, but they'd be able to choose 2 people to join them. And knowing they couldn't beat Aaron and Faye, chose Harry and Jen, which were the 2 other close allies of Aaron at that point. Now we come to that eviction, and now do you think there was a backlash against production in this twist, and that influenced the result somewhat?
Probably.
Because I know a lot of people who were upset with the way that Channel 5 handled that result and deliberately block voted Harry and Jen to make sure the one of the Wolfpack left that week as a reaction.
This is why that if I had my way, and if all the people of the world who actually had half a brain cell had their way, they would try and do as much as they can to quote unquote, if we go with bibliological things, defy God, as production is God in the Big Brother house, to actually, do that. But unfortunately, scripted reality is more better than normal reality.
And of course, the eviction result, gave us another example of Bad Luck Anton. In that Aaron was so self-assured he'd done the right thing by putting up Harry and Jem, believing that he had no possibility, and then finding himself getting less votes than not only Harry, which was expected, but Jem. Jem Palmer, who had spent the first 2 weeks mourning about being there, gets more votes than Anton.
Bad luck, Anton.
Bad luck, Anton. And of course, Anton ended up going that week. Now, I thought Anton played the role of Panto Baddie perfectly. And I know there's a lot of people who don't like him on internet forums. I'm in the minority there. I thought he played the Panto Baddie role brilliantly. Although, I will say this about him, he was one of the most blatant Victor wannabes that ever was.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Paul?
I would probably agree with you there, but, Victor was, intimidating. In the first few days of going into the house, he was intimidating. But
Keep going.
It was, This was in a previous series, so we're not going to cover.
But of course, if you're going to replicate a housemate, you better be choosing an awesome one like Victor.
Yes, and
so I'll give him that.
And also go full blown, $1 billion man sort of thing. We will make him more blonder, stupider, more efficient, more something.
And they failed.
They basically put a toaster on it. They basically put a toaster on cardboard boxes.
You were going to say, Paul? I mean, Joe?
I said, if I go in, I'm going to be a complete replica of Portray. And if you're in with me, I'm going to absolutely murder you.
So you're basically
I said choose someone good.
You were basically gonna do the same thing as Lumpy Princess. First I'm gonna fall in love with someone, and then I'm gonna break his heart and then die.
Yeah, Joe. Play Katria. I want you to see your pink high platform boots.
Yeah, and cookie jar.
Now, week 7...
I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to break a heart!
Now, week 7 was interesting for two particular editing decisions that were made that week. The first was that now that the show was without a villain, as it were, we saw Jem's edit take a really negative turn as production make her the villain. It was actually quite alarming how Jem just became... Now, Jem wasn't a particularly good housemate at the start, very miserable, very moany, but just amped this up so much and added a catty, bitchy side to her, which just made things worse for me. But the other one was that I felt that at this point, production also began to turn on Aaron. And I think Aaron had been quirky and funny and really warming to people at that point. And production chose not to highlight these for some reason or another in the edit, and instead make other characters, namely Alex and Tom, try and look more fun and more rootable in comparison. Was this because production didn't want Aaron to win, or was it because that Aaron was becoming too popular for their own good and they wanted to try and make it more of an even competition? I'll put that to you, Joe.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Sorry, could you
why did production turn on Aaron?
Because Aaron is just I just don't like Aaron, really, to be honest with you. To be blatantly honest, I'm sorry, Aaron, if you're listening, but I just didn't like you. You were arrogant, selfish, and a bit of an arse. So there you go.
I would beg to differ, because this is basically Aaron was basically the guy who was basically Channel 5's kick up of their arse. Because they basically blatantly went out of their way to make sure that Aaron didn't go for that didn't go to the final. But every time they did that, Aaron just came coming back.
Aaron's fan base on Digital Spy, on the internet forums, was absolutely massive. I mean, at one point, I think when there was still like 7 or 8 people still in the house, Aaron was polling 70% of the vote to win.
Hey.
I mean, that's absolutely huge.
I could just see Aaron as basically the Che Guevara of this of Big Brother.
I felt that a lot of these fan base, the Poppets, tried to do that. They tried to paint Aaron as this roguish rebel figure who will stick it to the man. He wasn't really, though, and I love Aaron, but
he was basically a bloke who knew a lot of funny jokes.
Yes, he was a normal man. That's really what it was with Aaron.
This conversation started to sound like a little bit like a lyric from the Black Parade,
Yes. So we'll move on then.
Okay.
Yes. And what we'll move on to is the controversial Friends and Family nominations.
Ooh.
I want your opinion on that, Joe.
Friends and Family. Oh, well, I must say that it's a new thing, isn't it? The Friends and Family thought it was an interesting thought premise, and I think it worked pretty well.
But it breaks that rule that most people Big Brother fans stand by: no contact with the outside world.
What do? Bring out the outside world. Even the hedgehog doesn't come in that house.
But I know they got their letters from home a week earlier, but I think they need it, really. I know it's like against the rules and stuff, but I think they needed it to see their family, and then they go and they're back in the house. I think it's refreshing to have them.
I find I find though that outside interference like that influences the way that they behave in the house. I think, for example, Faye hearing from everyone else's mum and dad that Aaron is using Faye, Aaron is scheming, plotting Faye. What's that poor girl going to be thinking then? Because she's obviously fallen for this man, and yet she's having people on the outside telling them that he's this dick. That can't be good for her. That can't be good for Faye in the house, and we saw that Faye really struggled at that point.
And if you basically, it's basically a stab in the back in a way. I mean, you're basically hearing from the family of the guy who who in the house at the time is your bestest friend, turn out to be the worst person you'll ever meet.
When he blatantly wasn't, I don't think. I think Aaron was a flawed character, but he wasn't the worst person in the world. But
Sure
friends and family nominations took place, and it was Aaron versus Jem, or we thought, because Jem became the second quitter of the year. Now, what do you
been
think?
A lot of quitters, haven't there been?
Over the course of the series, yes, but there were only 2 this year. And actually, I think that's something that Channel 5 has been quite good at. I think Channel 4 had this habit of just putting in people, allowing them to leave, bringing in 400 or 500 more. Channel 5 have actually been quite good. There's only ever been 2 quitters, and there's only ever been 2 late entries. And considering one of them was only 3 days late, our friend Becky Hannon, I actually think Channel 5 is quite good for that. But why did Jem quit? Because was it because she couldn't handle the idea of being less popular than Aaron?
Probably. I mean, Big Brother is basically the popularity show of the whole entire thing. I mean, you got most of the people who have got, have you seen most of the people that go on there? It's either quirky, pretty, arsehole, or arse. I mean, booty fine arse, not.
Which one would I go into?
Pretty. Yeah. Anyway,
I'd have no comment on that because I have a fear that something will fly towards my head.
Yes. But with Jem out the way, what happened was that everybody else who received the second most votes also went up. So Aaron was joined by Jay, Faye, and Harry. And now, this eviction was quite an interesting one. Firstly, because even despite having a downturn in his edit and having quite a rough week, I feel, Aaron still came out as the person with the most votes, which I found very interesting. I actually began to feel at this time that even after this bad week, the fact that Aaron was still maintaining his popularity made me begin to think he could win this.
Yeah, and also the fact that Digital Spy were helping him along.
Oh, Digital Spy really went all out to help Aaron, and they had cheap Facebook voting for that year. I think it was like 7p per vote, and DS just went full on, out of their way. I mean, there were people spending like tens of pounds to make sure that Aaron would win. Really devoted support. And if you actually go on the Aaron's Poppets Facebook page, it was insane how popular he was and how devoted his fan base were. But the other interesting thing was Jay, who had finished behind both Harry and Faye the previous 2 weeks, beat them in this eviction. Now, why do you think that was? Was it because Jay was the default Wolfpack vote, or do you think that there was a downturn in Harry and Faye's heart? I'll put that to you, Joe.
Well, actually, before I answer that, I was going to say that I think that sometimes Big Brother or Channel 5 wouldn't admit to it, but I think that sometimes bait outsiders to say things like tell Jem an embarrassing fact about Jay that'll put you off him, and then they said it and that put her off. But I think it was maybe baited by Channel 5. So, and I can't remember what.
Jay beating Harry and Faye.
Yeah, I think that Jay, he did step up a bit from the previous weeks, and he seemed to have like more content than the other two nominees. So I think that's why he beat them.
I can agree with you there. I think what had happened basically was that with Anton still in the house, Jay sort of fell into Anton's shadow a bit, and I think that once he'd left the house, Jay began to show a lot nicer side of himself. I wasn't saying that Jay was this good as gold figure, but compared to what he was in the crypt, certainly did far better for me. And of course, Harry ended up going that week. Now, I don't know about you, I like Harry personally. I thought he was a nice guy. I think 500 Bananas was absolutely hilarious. One of the funniest moments of the series. But I don't know, I just sort of get the feeling that Harry's support seemed to stem from the fact that he was Aaron's best mate. Do you think Harry had a strong fan base on his own, or do you think he latched onto Aaron's popularity a bit? I'll put that to Paul.
I think so, because if you become like a chill, if it becomes like a chill town scenario,
he was the buggy to Will. He was the buggy to Aaron's Will.
Or the Will to Aaron's buggy.
Well, no, Will was by far the more popular Chilltown member.
Oh. I can't quit you. Pling, 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 pling.
Big Brother America reference. Look it up. Chilltown Mountain, YouTube. Very funny. But what do you think, Joe? Do you think Harry sort of latched onto Aaron's fan base a bit?
Yeah, I do, and I think that he was lucky that they took him on and kept him in. So yeah, he was very lucky there.
Aaron, what? I just can't quit you.
We'll move on now for that. So by week 8, I mean, we had 6 couples remaining. We had 6 people remaining, 3 couples. Farben, which is Faye and Aaron, Jay and Louise, and Talix, which was Tom and Alex. Now, of those 3 groups, which were you rooting for at this point? Which do you think was more interesting of the couples? Joe?
I think the one that Aaron was in, I can't remember what you called it.
Farben.
Yeah. I think them as a group had a lot of, they were just really good together, like romance style, and I think it was good, yeah.
I just felt they had so much more depth than the other two. And yes, they argued, yes, they bickered a bit more, but I felt that was more interesting to watch. I mean, you had Tom and Alex doing the Macarena every day since the dawn of time, and then you had J-Lo, who really off-put, wasn't it? Like, Jay's almost fetish with feces, which did anyone else ever notice that Jay just seemed to have this obsession with his bum? Like he would wipe Louise's pillow with his bum. He took a dump in the freezer.
Why do I just see at the end of the whole thing, he basically is sitting in the corner wiping feces upon his face?
I'm actually really glad Jay didn't win, because I had this fear he'd start wiping the walls with his own feces.
I'm the winner! I'm the winner! Look at that, my brown children!
And of course Louise found it all dead romantic, as she liked to say.
How the hell do you find shit romantic?
Don't know, people have their own different cakes.
Why do I have a feeling that, as an engagement present, they just give him a turd in a little box? Oh, that's so sweet.
No, it'd be the one it'd be the one that Jay put in the freezer. I went back in the house and got this just for you, pet.
Oh, that's so nice. Oh dear Lord! What the friggin' hell is that? It looks like it looks like Gandalf's finger.
Now, one of the things which came with having the series a bit later than normal, because he'd had the celebrity series at the start of the summer, and this one came a little bit later, was that everything was moved back. So when it came to the Monday, there were Halloween-themed nominations because it fell on October the 31st.
Yeah.
And of course they had nominations, face-to-face nominations, where there were, quote, electric chairs, where they got shocks depending on who got nominated. Now, there was this believed plan that all the housemates would conspire with one another to make sure everybody got a nomination, and that everybody would face the public vote. Aaron, as it's perceived on the show, there's a lot of controversy about this. If you read up on the internet forums, from what was perceived on the show, Aaron broke that plan and instead caused the nominations to change so that it would be Faye going up against Louise. Why do you think Aaron did that?
Well, well, Aaron is a game player, as we can probably tell, because all this is very clever and strategic. And, you know, he wanted to win the game.
But how was it clever and strategic though, when he's putting his number one ally into danger in a one-on-one eviction, when had he been in the vote to save, it would have been very likely that they would have stayed easy.
Split the money.
Survival of the fittest, isn't it? Really?
Do you think
You gotta save your own house.
Do you think maybe, part of me thinks, did Aaron deliberately do that, hoping Faye would get evicted and causing her fan base to get behind him, so there wouldn't be any split votes, and that Aaron would be able to inherit all those votes for himself?
Yeah, I do, yeah. Yeah, I do.
And what being nominated caused, in combination with the arguments, was a perceived implosion from Faye. Faye really lost it that week, really took a negative downturn, and catching onto the House Hates Aaron sort of storyline that production was trying to build at that point. And yet, somehow, Faye, who was a far more interesting character, ended up going against Louise, who was comparatively dull.
Bland.
Yes.
Like an ice pudding.
She just wasn't really that interesting. I mean, she's a beautiful girl. Can't deny that with Louise. But I felt there was nothing much more to her.
Where did Louise come from?
Louise was from Manchester.
I mean...
She looks like that, yeah. Kind of very pretty.
Oh, absolutely stunning girl. I can't deny that with Faye Palmer. Now, but surely, if the public was judging this the way I believe they should do, which is based on contribution, Faye would have stayed easy and Louise should have gone. And actually, I believe, Paul just got away for a moment, so I'll put this to you, John. It's quite a controversial statement here. Was Faye the most complex character of the series? Because in my eyes, as much as I love Aaron, as much as Aaron was funny, Aaron was hilarious, Faye went through so much there mentally that I actually think that she was the one who really established herself as an interesting personality. What about you?
Yeah, I think she was interesting, and most of the housemates had, a lot of content, a lot of personality, and I think she was probably one of the bigger personalities of the series.
And of course, without Faye there, Aaron went into this real lull.
Yeah.
Really began to come across it. And again, with this House versus Aaron, bit on the side versus Aaron mentality, continue to emphasise this fact that Aaron was this outsider, this mopey outsider who was this misery guts, this Eeyore figure bringing down the rest of the house. What did you make of that? Do you think was Aaron really like that, or do you think they just chose every single moment they could to try and turn Aaron into this bad guy?
I would say yes.
Hey, Paul's back.
Because when Channel 5, when a channel like Channel 5 sees something that is not actually the norm, that won't make them a lot of money or ratings, they will kill a grandmother to get that point across.
Which brings me on to a really good point there. Do you think there were ulterior media orientated aspects as to why Channel 5 behaved this way with Aaron? There's often this belief on Digital Spy that production really pushed for Jay and Alex win, because Jay and Alex would be a lot more open to the idea of doing Channel 5 stuff post-show, their own spin-off series, appearing a bit on the side, that Aaron wouldn't have done so, because the likelihood would have been Aaron would have just gone back to his day job with the money and returned to a normal life.
That's the sinister thing with all these channels.
But I think that sort of happened though with Channel 4 though, mind you.
Yes.
I mean the way they supported Josie Gibson in Big Brother 11.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I couldn't imagine like Sam Pepper or Corin doing all the media things, but Josie completely did.
But let's forget what we actually found out about Sam Pepper, aka the Lube.
Yes.
Why the Lube?
Paul's not a big fan of Sam Pepper. We'll get to that with Big Brother 11.
Fucking
Sam Pepper, and I love you if you're watching, Sam Pepper. I love your Twitter. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, but
that's going to be an interesting debate once we get there.
I want to see some graffiti of this. If you're a tagger, my friend, I want to see some art, bitch.
What I want to do is I want you to discuss this bit on the side versus Aaron debate, because if you have watched that final week, bit on the side just went absolutely out of their way to do anything to make Aaron look like this dick figure. And one of the great things I think it was Nicola McLean actually who made the comment, Aaron shouldn't win because he's a massive fan of the show.
That's stupid.
I'm not joking, that's honestly one of the things that Nicola McLean, and what was the other one? Aaron looked like a wife beater.
That is quite manipulative there.
Fan.
Next thing you know, they'll probably be saying,
It doesn't matter, but they seem to think that it did. Actually, arguably being a Big Brother fan, living their dream, but it should have been more of a positive thing, but yet they tried to imply that it was negative.
Hey, it was basically, you know, the ultimate fanboys, or as I like to call it, Karl's wet dream, to go into the Big Brother house, and you know, to do something right, to do something in your way, in your how. But you know, if Aaron's a big fan of Big Brother, right?
Which he was, massive fan.
He would have done exactly what we would have done, which is basically get the fan base behind us.
Yes. What now? We're just moving on a bit now, because we're coming up to the final stages, and we're coming to the night before the finale, where 5 became 4, and we ended up losing Tom in that victory. Basically, the lines had opened after phase eviction, and the person who got the least votes would leave one day before the finale, and it ended up being Tom O'Connell. Now, from what Aaron likes to say on his Twitter feed and when he was on Digital Spy as a guest, Tom was actually a lot more of a contributor to the show than what we actually saw on the actual broadcasted show. Tom actually did a lot more. Why do you think that Tom got a shaft in this editing work? Because basically from what Aaron implies, Tom was the life and soul of the house, and yet got portrayed as if he was this camp lackey to Alex.
Well, Channel 5...
as I call him, Pound Shop Mika.
Pound Shop Mika, definitely.
Oh, I was going to say that, you know, Tom did have did say he had a problem with all with a lot of attention. Sometimes he'll go into his little, you know, happy zone, but sometimes he'll actually be the life and soul of the party. But unfortunately, with Big Brother, and this is before the live feed, mind you.
Yes, no live feed during Big Brother 12, as we remember.
Aye. It was basically shown as the campy little Mika ripoff.
Do you think Tom would have benefited if there was a live feed?
Oh, he would have probably benefited because he's like me. I may have my moments, but I'm not always like this.
Fair enough. So Tom leaves. Now, do you think that was the right decision, Joe? Do you think that Tom should have gone that week? Hello, Joe?
Yes, hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he kind of ran out of steam and things to say and stuff, and yeah, I think it was kind of his time to go. Yeah.
But arguably, he was a lot more interested in Louise.
Mind you, it's not the way he left you. It's not pretending. It says no girlie.
No happy ending.
Hey, there we go. He
I knew we'd throw a Mika joke in somewhere.
Oh yeah, if we go for Nemo, we're gonna put a Finding Nemo joke in there.
Now, once Tom departed, 24 hours later, we came to finale now. Yes. Now, one of the now, was I the only one who sort of like enjoyed the? I wouldn't say the normality, but I love the fact that that the finale for that year was so. There was something almost old school about it. The fact that there were so few housemates there. I got the feeling that finale night has become these bloated messes where they try to keep as many housemates in as they could. To have a finale which was just 4 people left, I quite enjoyed. Would you agree with that, Joe? Did you like the old school feel of the finale? Just 4 down to 4.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I really did enjoy that. I think it was much more like the Channel 4 version, which I do like.
I was just hoping they would bring back the brass band, to bring, I
You
love
love that brass band.
Oh, mariachi band, that would probably be good.
Yes, Joe?
The Prairies big, but I did enjoy the drag queen singer. I did enjoy that.
Jeff. Jeff's very love or hate. I think he's okay, personally.
Why is there...
I'll explain later. What didn't need explaining though was who was going to finish 4th, because I think most people knew it was going to be Louise from a very early stage. And now, what was your view on Louise on a whole? I mean, we've been quite critical of her. She had some positive aspects though, didn't she, Paul?
She had her positives, but she also had her negatives as well.
Well, let's focus on the positives for this bit though.
Alright. Positives. She had a nice ass. She had a very corking personality.
And she wasn't shady.
No, aye. Good point.
Believe me, if that was... There were 2 catchphrases which Louise pretty much said all the way through the series, which is, I'm not shady, and I'm dead normal. Or normal, as she liked to pronounce it.
That sounds like something a Jewish, no, sorry, because I was being...
Yes, please don't be racist.
Woody Allen would probably say, a bit normal.
Normal.
No. Woody Allen mixed in with a Geordie. A bit normal.
Now, Louise went 4th. No surprises. Were you surprised that it was Alex who was 3rd?
Not particularly, because...
Well, personally speaking for myself, I was very surprised. I had this vision that it would... There were a lot of beliefs. There were a lot of people weren't sure how strong Aaron's fan base was, and there were a lot of people who actually felt that Aaron would go 3rd, and there would be a Jay versus Alex final between the 2. So I was actually quite surprised Alex went in 3rd place, especially considering how production really began to push her as this lovable fool sort of character. What about you, George? Alex's placing.
Yeah, I think that. I did think it was going to be an Alex and Aaron final 2, but yeah, I was quite surprised she went 4th. So I wasn't surprised that she went after who do we just say when?
Louise.
Louise.
which I think shows how prominent Louise was on the show.
Yeah, if you figure out who the strong characters are and go for them, then you're either being a very good strategian, or basically someone who's basically a short man with a small stick hitting this massive man's feet.
But we did find out that Louise was just fame hungry because, of course, she married, I think it was Jay.
She married Jay, actually.
After.
She married Jay?
Yes.
Oh, bless him. If you're listening to this, congratulations.
Well...
No, not congratulations.
Oh.
Well, they must be happy together.
It's a showman's.
It's a showman's. It's never going to happen.
Now, of course, once Alex left, that left 2. And of course, it would be the first time that a male was guaranteed to win. There had been, in the Channel 4 era, 3 female winners in a row. So we were guaranteed a male winner that year, for once. And it was almost a case of the polar opposites, that we had Aaron, this middle class southerner, Western Supermare. He was a accounts manager, I believe, or something like that. And then we had almost his polar opposite, which was this Geordie plumber, tattooed body, like skinhead, Jay McKray. I love that almost polar opposite of the fact that it was just basically the perceived good, based on editing, the perceived good of Jay versus the evil Tory boy Toff, which was Aaron.
Oh my god, he's a Tory? Bloody hell.
I actually don't know Aaron's political allegiance, I honestly don't. But
he may be a Labour lad, I'm not sure.
Maybe, yes. We don't know these sort of things, so we shouldn't have said them. But what I was trying to imply though was we had these almost polar opposites going against each other in the final.
It's the odd couple, but with swords, basically.
That actually, Aaron and Jay in an odd couple style sitcom would work perfectly. But that final two, I actually remember, I actually threw a party for that finale. Don't laugh, Paul. I actually threw a party for that finale. A couple of friends and family, basically. Now they were, being from the northeast of England, they were pretty much all Jay fans, and I was probably the only Aaron fan in the house. Actually, my dad had never watched the series.
That's a Forever Alone sort of reference, right?
My dad had never watched the series. He watched the final highlights clips of the year, and he decided to himself, I don't want that ginger nonce to win.
Which one's it? Oh, you mean
Aaron. So I was pretty much his outsider. And I remember when the announcement came, Brian said I could now announce the winner of Big Brother 2011 is. Long, dramatic pause, about 20 seconds long. And then came up Aaron. I'm not joking, I actually jumped off the couch, punched the air and shouted yes.
And everyone else is going...
Boo!
No, they wasn't going boo, they were just giving that long stare that Newcastle fans would probably do to the one Sunderland fan who had got that seat in the Newcastle stand.
Yeah. And it was, but I just felt it was such a good moment. I just felt I'd been a Big Brother fan for all those years, and I'm not joking. I'd seen the likes of we'd suffered the likes of Brian Bello, we'd suffered the Anthony Huttons, we suffered the Josie Gibsons. To finally have
Josie.
We'll come to Josie and Big Brother 11 now. That's going to be the other one to discuss. But we'd had all those types of lovable Egypt with us. And yet finally, for once, I felt we had someone win who was well spoken, intelligent, and deserved it.
Aye.
And it was so refreshing.
And he was an accountant.
We don't know if he was an accountant. It was some sort of business-based job.
Yeah.
But I just found it absolutely fantastic to finally have someone like that win the show.
It's like,
and also because the crowd then was very anti-Aaron. They were really rooting for Jay in that finale. So to have Aaron win and to keep the crowd quiet was just one of those great moments for me.
I would really buckle if they all just went boo, boo, and then suddenly Aaron's going, you love me. Really.
Well, they booed him out the house. Now, that actually brings me to another point, Joe. Eviction crowds. I noticed they were worse on that series.
That is faceless crowd syndrome right there. You basically have, if you can control the faceless crowd, you're basically unstoppable. So...
But surely this crowd should be a representation of the voting public. It doesn't look very good if they're booing the winner.
Yeah, this is where Channel 5 are very clever on controlling the faceless crowd.
The only time I've seen a worse eviction crowd is at Goss's eviction.
Where there was no crowd.
Yeah,
who were Goss?
There was no crowd except for one.
Well, we'll explain why when we get to the Big Brother 4 podcast, which I'm sure is a joy for everyone who'll be looking forward to that one.
In almost 2 years.
Yes, I've done the calculations. If we keep going once a month, we're going to be done in about 2 years' time.
So basically, we're probably either going to go with A, hopefully the university comes along and takes me away, or B, we'll probably do this weekly.
We'll try and speed this up actually. But one of the things I want to discuss before we get into all the technical stuff, which we'll probably discuss behind the scenes. In general, your assessment of the series. Did we get the right winner? Was it an entertaining series? What could have been done to have improved it?
Right, and since we're getting pushed for time here, we're gonna make it as short as anything. So about 5.
Well, we have about 6 minutes remaining, so we'll let you talk for a bit, Paul.
I shall do it in 1 minute.
Good.
Right. Well, the fact that we actually got someone who's basically the biggest Big Brother fan in the world, so basically the people's choice, winning the thing was a big breath of fresh air. The whole entire thing was enjoyable. I liked Aaron's singers, and I would like to see more of that as well. So on we go. We sell for meatballs.
Out of the Channel 5 series, I think it's possibly the worst, but it was like a pilot for the rest of them, so I think it was pretty good, you know, in that it was a new series, and I
think considering the fact that we may have not even had a series, we have to take that into account. I mean, any Big Brother is better than no Big Brother.
Yeah.
We could probably watch Splash.
Don't be stupid.
Oh.
Anyway.
Come on. Abu the big
Abu Jalili
flying like a hairless turkey is probably going to be more entertaining.
I love him. I think he'd be good in such Big Brother. He'd be amazing.
We'll be discussing Celebrity Big Brother next week, which of course will be Celebrity Big Brother 11.
Oh, good.
Yes, the dreaded violence series. That will be for next week. Yes.
God,
Paul has a lot of grievances with Rylan, which he'll bring up when we record that one.
Me no want no do.
I'll be dragging him in by the neck, making sure, peeps.
No.
But what I am going to say though is that unfortunately I think that's all we have time for.
Yep.
Who would have thought it, ladies and gentlemen? We talked about Big Brother 12 in an hour and a half. Certainly we enjoyed making this podcast. I hope that you at home also enjoyed listening to it. Until next time though, my name's been Karl Bainbridge.
I have been Paul Barron, the ominous voice that you'll hear in your head in your dark place.
And I'm Joseph Tilley, and don't forget to follow Big Bro Archive.
Yes, follow us on our Twitter account, Big Bro Archive. We've got our Facebook page, Big Bro's Big Archive. Also, in the box below you'll have comments on the YouTube page. I strongly recommend you contribute to them because it's your contribution and your enthusiasm that makes us continue to do this.
Yes. So you know, keep on bringing in the views, comments, and likes. We like the likes. I like the likes.
We like the likes. We like making this show, and we want to continue doing it for the next 2 years.
Oh God.
But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. This has been Big Brother's Big Archive, and we'll be seeing you again in the near future. Bye bye for now.
Can I leave the room, please? I want to go home.
I need a poo.
The words of Jay McKray. Bye bye, everyone.
Doodles.